보시는 거나 꽤 구근도예요.
We'll say the prayer on page number 10. On page number 10, we'll say each verse 2 times to Tibetan, all the way to page number 13. And afterward, we'll say in English 1 time. I will read you the number. So now we are on page number 10. In English on page number 11. I take refuge in the Guru.
I take
refuge in the Buddha.
I take refuge in the Dharma. I take refuge in the Sangha.
From now until my enlightenment, I take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And by the merit in this practice, may I attain the state of Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and comfort. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and causes. May all sentient beings never be separated from joyful bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger. His ground anointed with perfume, strewn with flowers, Mount Meru, encircled by the four continents, surmounted by the sun and the moon. I visualize this Buddha field and offer it. May all living beings enjoy the pure land.
안에 참말로 참 자식들이시고 대랑 지도지 오자는 게 하먹고 그래.
Good morning to you all, and welcome, and thank you for joining me in today's discussion. And I somehow didn't realize that today is the day we are moving to the summertime.
아니 다 동부 때 다가랑 잔지 검진 많이 돈지네 검장이었어.
So the first thing we're going to do is practice meditation on Buddha of compassion, and through by the means of recitation of Om Mani Padme Hum, or the 6 syllables of the heart mantra of Avalokiteshvara.
아니 그 고미야가 그것이 나인로 등인들라 넌들라 근다지가 요때 참이들라 먹든로 다 조도지네 때다 다가랑 다 상그조 유지로 이나 돈기 몸이 잔지스 몸한테 상치 샘기 당니까 양지기 랑스기 데리가 나와 샤다운 텐지 봐 공고를 양지기 랑스기 좀 받든지 공고를 공차죠.
So in order to make those of you both online here on the temple easy to practice this meditation, and I have placed a statue of Buddha Avalokiteshvara and Buddha of compassion right here in front of me. I invite you to take a close look on this image of Buddha of compassion, and then so mentally or intelligently invite him up onto your mind. So as you can see, what I have placed here, of course, is objects, a sacred object that is made of copper, right? And obviously it's a material. This is the object of a piece of material thing. But we must remember that. So here we use this the sacred object as the reference point, because the actual Buddha of compassion, Avalokiteshvara, is the embodiment of the great compassion itself. So therefore, when you after you invite the Avalokiteshvara into your mind, and then make this appearance, okay, of himself vividly in your mind, you need to remember that very sacred appearance or the object of your meditation is nothing but the manifestation of the great compassion.
대자다 네 잔지스 옴 세디 이게 샤롱 저 신기람 신로 니와드 나랑도 링거 있음라 템지다 나랑도 통비 단단 직든 디가나 용다랑진 특바자 좀 받던 로고 안치다 막미양지 시즌 받던 근데 강라된 큰거 nen겐키니 파밀라다 와요신 그때 정말 링거 있음라 파라지니 tellah teni ani niwala teni ti thamchik linga yisam gata phashi ding wala nyangji tang mani pamne hom sa ti ta shamtang nyangji sita dang her tapshi niwut ngonde yor show se gora tapshi niwut ngonde yor jong arangzo 제또 홈 세트 이게 ngañam te chagdo hom 이게 ngawote to dang karz ngarangzo jetang mi doji kirwi phongbo ngayor phongbo ngawote neingina ne yawaringi ngongiro tinsa phong ngawote neingini 탑시 인기 ngorkirwi di niwala te ne phong ngawote neingini tanda chira yawaringi ngongiro sho tenji mono jane ne ngazo manen do yinsi
So again, like we talked about, have this explained about the six syllables, the meaning of the six syllables, Oman Bame Hum. So yes, again, you need to recall or reflecting upon and the profound meaning represented by those six syllables. First of all, like we talked about before, the Om and is stand for or represent or symbolize the body, speech, and mind. And in this context, is the body, speech, mind of the Buddha Avalokiteshvara, the compassion Buddha. And so think about or reflect upon the sacred attributes, qualities, power, compassion, and wisdom of the Buddha's mind, and Buddha and the compassion Buddha's mind, and then the eloquent, the sacred teaching, the eloquent speech of the verbal activities of deeds of Buddha compassion, and then think about the profound the wisdom mind or the omniscient mind of Buddha Avalokiteshvara, and then think that those qualities and so it kind of appears or and you've been very sort of harmoniously and emerged to and those the qualities the perfect qualities of Buddha Avalokiteshvara's body, speech, and mind, and then whereby you, and as an ordinary sentient being at this stage or at this point, your body, speech, and mind. At the same time, remember that not just you, and we are in this very moment in the world, in our own world, and the people are suffering. The war is going on. And so think about those people and who are suffered in general, but particularly and who are experiencing tremendous harm, injuries, and sufferings, and caused by the war. And then think about those people's body, speech, and mind. So take it into your own and kind consideration, the kind invited into them into your attention. So and once you have that, and also particularly think about those who are in charge of such a horrific action of war and against the very humanity, and wish that all those who launched the war, who is in charge of this horrible action, and whoever involved in decision making, and which brought this war, in our own bare world, and I think that the compassionate the qualities and the sacred attributes of the Buddha of compassion and the body, speech, and mind, and not only so you've been connected to it, and you've been emerged to that state of perfections and peace and wisdom. All the individuals, including yourself, and particularly those who are who hold the positions of higher positions of decision making, their mind, body, speech also is being connected to or being affected, blessed and influenced by empowered by the Buddha of compassion's body and speech or mind. So and then whereby everybody is the order of the peace being restored, and upon to the experience these tremendous qualities of lessons of Buddha of compassion. And then remember that so Buddha of compassion is the result of or the Buddhahood of the Buddha of compassion is the result of the practice of skillful means or upaya, and the wisdom or jnana. And so this the combination of the skillful means compassion and the wisdom that understand the ultimate reality, and it's combined, and the combination of these two qualities and produced the Buddha of compassion. And then you think about the home. So the home, remember we talked about the dependent arising or dependent origination. So home at this point is think of we need to think about is that the five aggregates. Okay, the five aggregates is the basis of our designated identity, or is the base by which we sort of claim or establish some sort of the identity. So this five aggregates for a mere sentient being is the base, or is the building blocks of your own individuality. But remember, again, the home is because dependent arising. Other side of this is the one side of the five aggregates, but this conventional aspect of the five aggregates or five skandhas, but the ultimate aspects, the absolute aspect of the five aggregates actually is the five Dhyānaka Buddhas. Five Dhyānaka Buddhas. So our goal, and ultimately, and by the means or through the practices such as the recitation and meditation on the Buddha of compassion, and we are aimed to transform our impure, our conventional, impure, contaminated five aggregates, the skandhas, and into the ultimate, the pure, or the absolute aspect of the five skandha. That is the five Dhyānaka Buddhas. So I think all this means and the procedure of the process, and then meditate accordingly.
Oh yeah. 나다 잔지스 고문데 만데 도인즈라 소네 나랑조 참발라 상기위 사원 니와 형지요 형지 영아로 참발라 요르다 단다 미소지 지금 참기라 형지가 사원 요르다 형지 등원도 이제 특면자다 데 강한테 요르다 사 형지가 노쇼데 등을 땅잖아 삼비 삼로티 도쇼도 콩크로 그 등을 땅지나 삼비 삼로티 온거 때자다 다 소땅잖아 다 배들이 용거자 등아주 사원때 상망원도 전에 형지가 사원때 원도 기령을 쏟들라더니 셰럽 그때 또 용을 순직된들라 용을 쏘바네 닐링 엄마한테 또 어떤 식식라 판심도 형지요 비고네 시디그 너무 차도고 뜻지 마트바인사다 아니 강한테 용을 말 셰럽 그 도쇼도 말이 바로 뭐시한 거니 nga panna ko panna nga yenna sami ti sema zoji ti gangla phasho tela ne nyangji shiga me be no be sami yo cha doxo tingi ta doxo na te darang mi chama rang jing sherab ta jang jing won de so nga so rang jing chi par ti won de ji ni wa chim bu so nga so ma chan ris ko ngo kin bu to this sema ngi go res.
So, although my comments or remarks about the basic meaning and all the contents and the process of the meditation and on the Buddha Avalokiteshvara, it sounds like too probably technical. And however, just remember, and it's very simple. In the simplest term, remember that we are not trying to do something that's kind of abstract and a very sophisticated and a highly sort of complete involved with a very complex the complexity. And in fact, just remember that the Avalokiteshvara, Buddha's compassion, that we are now going to rely on and seeking for the protections and going to meditate on him and namely his body, speech, and mind, body, speech, and mind, the qualities of body, speech, mind, and it's because we all primarily or essentially and have the seeds of Buddha compassion, that is great compassion. So we do have those the great the seeds of the compassion is within us. Okay? Because of the developments, that seed is right now in this moment and have not yet be able to manifest it, or become or acting, serving us, or survived us. We can survive, and by that very quality, in its actual or its the state of the perfection. So the seeds has been covered. The compassion, the seed of compassion at this point haven't yet been fully manifested. It is not able to. So therefore, the horrible things we see on TV in this very moment and in the recent weeks is because that very seed of compassion is being covered, being buried by its opposite force. Okay? The opposite force. The opposite force of compassion, of course, is hatred, all right? Is hostility, and other very destructive, negative emotions. So seeing this, right, understand this, and then we know we have the reason and to identify that very seeds and bring ourselves to join or to merge in that that very seeds of compassion within us, right? And by the assisted by the guidance of the wisdom and that understand the actuality. So this way, we ourselves can become the actual compassionate Buddha, right? And right now we are meditating on him, but that is just a skillful means. It's a means. Yeah, it's not the end. So the end is by recognizing the seeds of great compassion is within us, and then through the guided by the wisdom and then understand the ultimate reality, and then we ourselves can free from the impact or the negative influence of the ignorance, right? So we can be, then we become a Buddha ourselves. It is true, right? Let me make it more even simple. Any bad things happen, any harmful the actions being taking place or events occur in this world, all is because of the ignorance and because of the people who are being so much egocentric. And what they all think is that how I can defeat others, how I can become the victorious one, victory of victory, the one who is enjoying the victory. So defeat others and gain the victory for oneself. That is the primary cause of the all kind of damaging, including the very war is going on in this very moment. So therefore, again, and we do have the reason. I recognize this reality fact, and then we needed to meditate on the great compassion, because we know that once we have compassion, and also elsewhere, everyone across the world, and if they recognize, understand, appreciate the very quality of compassion, and understand the seeds of compassion within them, and they meditate on that seed and nourish that seed, and then let that seeds growing into its full maturity, and then they themselves also will become the Buddha of Avalokiteshvara, whereby, of course, and the peace and the prosperity will be taking place effortlessly.
Yeah.
The mantra of Avalokiteshvara is on page number 70. The first verse on the page number 70. Yeah, on the right side also has the translations in English.
Nyerde shangwa nyeshe ne shangche longten topar sho. Oh yeah. Rang chitang tanga zo jimba tangna jimbi driu tan jimbi klong tang tinde korla disi jak sam ta terang ngazun janda tsu namji depti mashi ju terang ti tsu nor jinga jang lo ram chong mas ma lo na de shu ji ngi chan ro ra ti kort ma ti sa shi ta ma ti cha de shi go sang go yo.
So today, I'm going to change the topic. the subject matter of the discussion. The reason I wanted to do that instead of continue discussing on the profound subject is emptiness or the materials related to that very difficult topic, and then I guess I should make a comment and talking about the generosity, the practice of giving or the generosity. The reason I make this change is because, as I said, I didn't realize the time. First, the change of the time, and secondly, I didn't get a chance to review the text myself. So without read carefully and then make a thorough reviewing the actual text with a clear sort of a certainty or a clear understanding, I think that it's better I not try to make a sense of it, rather just do something which I find is comfortable and I like better.
근데 저통 짐바세트라 넘버 쓰면 그래서 상상 그 짐바 취지 짐바 문직비 짐바즈니 쓰면 그래서.
So in general, when you talk about practice generosity, and we have talked about the threefold, or the generosity, practice generosity divided into threefold. The generosity of the thing or the material object, and the generosity of providing or giving the protection, meaning that the fearlessness, the generosity of a fearlessness or feel free. And then third is the generosity of dharma.
괜찮다니. 짐바세 소소셈니 봐. 동와세 소소셈 당는 원이 당네 양지 당 된리가 근일랑니 파 당성 링의 심공. 당 오즈 제임바의 날에 에네 파쇼로 롱바지나 이날에 치지군 섭종직제의 날 삼박롱 남딱 지제나 대진방원이 자꾸를 딘디오들라니 문탑기요 때마도 응아랑주스 멍거던다 근데 양 지금 렌섬제도 지금 설니근일랑으로 들지나 펜토요 말세.
So let's talk about the first thing in the practice of the giving in terms of that very practice generosity related to the material thing, what things can be transformed into a material value. The actual meaning or the true intended meaning of generosity is the mind of giving, or the actual the meaning actual mind that is has been aimed or directed to the practice where you are mentally and willing to give out or give away. So that's very giving or give away. It's not just simply like oh I don't need it, or this is extra, and or I have such habits just giving, and in fact it's not. And so that very action or deed of the giving generosity is driven by the compassion, karuna or mahakaruna. So because of this, you have this understanding, and you develop this very quality of the compassion in karuna or the mahakaruna, and driven by that very spiritual quality, and now you determined to giving? Are you acting? You take action of the generosity you're giving away or giving out. This can be. We can apply this very practice into our daily life, and to make sure that we do whatever and the things we're doing and feed in this spiritual instruction of giving. So for example, like you are highly accomplished, achieved scholar, okay, and so you have a lot of you know a lot, okay, and you are capable and very well trained and skilled individual. So now, when you try to teach someone or upon to someone's request, and while you are giving that very knowledge or skills, right, whatever you're able. So in that, prior to the moment action of the deeds of generosity or giving your skill, your knowledge to other, or share your knowledge with other, and you must have a very pure intention, or your intention must be pure, meaning that driven by the great compassion, and you want to just merely and purely want to give away for the sake of others, just for help, but nothing and like you want to compete with someone or else. You heard that they giving some other things, and they are famous for being giving and being generosity, and or you now started to do these deeds of commit to these deeds of generosity because you want to have a better name, or to draw or get other people's attention and oppress, and so, or even something in return in the materials in the form of materialism. So that is not a right form of generosity. The correct the generosity or practice generosity in this particular case is your very action of giving is driven by the great compassion.
Penzata ani shawa kantang kangsna giwash kantang kangsona tela da jimba tangna da ngazo mangda tendi chonda tangana khorang te mupi tangayna da tela tenin joji chongna teni di niwa to zog charso te ma to ma samjin tamchige don 상기 기 공방 마토 바 토비 쳇드니 ngwa molum tar thwaina 상기 기 공방 마토 바 terbe진 데트 그렇고 때자다 ngazo 소서 좀 가르치나 담보 아니 소소 심 그런 역고지 캐니 심지 담치게 돈 상기 공부 토비셔때 인 지고요 삼니지나 바로 지시 버티게 나오고 그래 이제 뜻지기 요 삼지 지 몰음 잡주 지 와저 ngazo 지요도 담아들랑 와 몰음 지트와이나 아니 지금 말할 때는 니 버려 되자 등이 배 같이 버려 그롱등 타밍 원이 때 같이 버려 어떻게 경우도 신난도 송세.
So yes, this is something that's in general kind of sounds easier. However, it's a very basic and it's a fundamental and it's something that's essential. I like to again and emphasize that. So how important it is. That is to say, just like we talk about generosity. So generosity is, of course, a virtuous deed, and there's a compassion, and especially driven by the great compassion, is a pure spiritual practice. And so, not just the deeds of compassion, and in this case, is a virtue, but any the actions and which can be considered as the wholesome and considered to be spiritually meaningful and or has a great spiritual value. In other words, is a virtue. whatever you do, okay, if you do that, take action, and the very action that you're taking is not for establish a new name or to gain something that's socially or worldly give you something in return. So if not, your action, the very action you executed, right, is not for name, but for pure spiritual understanding of spiritual and highest spiritual goal, and then that would be meaningful, and that's the right way to practice. The simplest thing and taught by scripture is this: if you do anything or carry out any virtuous action, right, and then at the very beginning and before you engage in actual action, so you think about, may I attend the Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings? In order to achieve this highest goal of Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings, let me take the actions of such as this one, as like generosity, or like the practice of purification, and the practice of any sadhana, or any let's say the practice of the deity yoga, or anything that's aimed to train your mind or to purify the negativities of your mind. So when you made this prayer and direct your very actions followed after that very prayer, then your action is now is become nothing seeking for the name or to be famous. And in fact, the literature says, because you aimed to do that, to take that action in order to benefit all sentient beings, and so you will, by the fruits of that very virtuous quality of that very action, you will attain the Buddhahood, and then in fact, whatever you have done is sort of being secured and put into some kind of safety box, and which is going to make sure the practice of Buddhahood stronger and successful. By contrast, according to literature, if your action for generosity or any form of collection of merits, right, and purifications, and or sadhana, the deity yoga, or whatever form of the meditation, samadhi, training practice, and so on and so forth, you dedicate it. But if you thinking of you want to do that because you will become a famous one and you will have a good name and so on and so forth, and the literature advises us, so you will get benefits, right? You will see the actual result, but that result will be vanished as soon as you gain that very or appreciate it, enjoy the actual the outcome, such as in this case is good name. So therefore, the result will not expanded, will not last forever. Whereas if you dedicate your very deeds of virtue to for the benefits of all sentient beings, or as the resource used to achieve the Buddhahood, and from that moment until you attain Buddhahood, it will increasing, and eventually will assist you attain the Buddhahood. So therefore, at the very beginning, make a pure prayer or sets up a pure motivation at the beginning of your practice, and then at the end, make sure you make a dedication. So, and dedicate all the merits, whatever you have accumulated through that, no matter how extensive or how minor and your action, the virtuous deeds are, and again, to dedicate it to the dedicate to all sentient beings, or dedicated for the benefits of all sentient beings. That will be the two great things you should do at any time when you think, or when you recall to remember to think, practice the Buddha Dharma. So meaning that make a prayer at the beginning, sets up your motivation, and make sure your motivation is pure, and then follow through that's the prayer or motivation, and then at the end make it a pure dedication.
벤자당 알아서 sombi kalung ngani kalung 같이 야 첨부지나 텔라텐 니와 첨부 요르지 kalung 소소랑이 직보서는 텔라텐 니와 즉 텔리 즉 소소 남이 잠사는 텔리 니와 심지 담치 삼나 삼지 담지 라템비 니와 즉 벤춘지는 알아서 미지나 알아서 쭉 돈도 셔든 땅 알아서 쭉 돈도 잠 니와로 문도
It's 11 o'clock.
남이 라즈기다 소소고티 쪼독샤티 쪼르 따페는 잠랑 되게 야금 되게 간도 경기지다 선전도 하나 코코랑을 니와지도 왔대 니와데 가서 마망가 손tun인 사테코 니와데 용거도 마토젠 가랑 선전 미션을 찍고 드랑네 선전 살성의 디 니와데 가는 얌송어라 그래서 된당진 때 벤순 전진랑 알아서 따파 베이잖아 소소끌는 거 간에 야 전부 같이 낭타나 때라더니 니와데 공패든 로기오로 됐었다 참매지세요 심지다 대화당 대회당 등등 따버서 심지 탐지지로 참매봐 심지 참매봐 때니 개와 참매봐 용 거래지네 어떻게 그러지
So again, that the motivation or the mind setting, or whatever the very first thought was you had prior to the actual action is crucial, because the broader, the greater, and the vast your mind setting is, or your driving intention is, then the benefits, the power, and the outcome will match that very the size or the qualities of the motivation, the intention, and the prior to your actions. For example, we do all kinds of things, right? If your very action, the action you're taking place, and if it has been driven, or you follow the action was followed by the idea that of such as like say, oh, I need to do this for myself. This is going to be good for me. It looks very good thing to do for myself. If you have these thoughts, right, then your action followed this thought through, then whatever the actions you're taking and will can be measured in terms of the size or the range of the benefits or the impact of the outcome, whatever, is only right kind of limited within that the range of the size of I or you as a single individual, right? You probably also not typically think of the things to do for your individual self all the time, but you may think that, oh, that looks great for me to do because it's going to be helpful, could be good for my family. Or you say, I need to do this because my family need it, right? Or you think another way, say, and this is going to improve or benefits my families and this and that. So then that very action, okay, if I follow the through with such a mind or intentions being focused on the benefits of your family, then again, so the range, the value, and then the impact and of that action only will be will be restricted or limited. The kind of benefits within that the range of the boundary within the boundaries of family's needs or family itself. Now, here's the real thing, or better thing. That is like someone who stand out from the crowd and go to the stage and claim that I want to run the presidential campaign and to become the president of the country, right? That very person, right, had his thoughts and then doing that, if he or she had the thoughts that he or she wanted to do that because of the country, right, or the nation, and then he or she wants to become the president, and then the influence, right, and the impact and the outcome of his motivation, his action will much greater than the impact or the influence of the family that he or she gave to affected his or her family, but rather it's an entire country or nation. This is we know, just from the power or the outcome effectiveness point of view, we see that if your motivation is aimed on yourself, then just this much, just that little. And if you make it a little bigger and expand it a little bit into your family, again, so then the benefits will just as great as like within the family. And however, if you claim you want to be the president and the benefits of the entire country, all citizens, then all citizens, and if they decide to appreciate your agendas, your individuality, and your wisdoms and leadership, and then they will vote you and they cast a vote, and the vote you become the president. From that moment onwards, you are still the same individual was initially working on. At one point, working on focus on the individual self. And then later, another time, focus on family. But now he or she, and that same individual who become a much greater, can do much greater and become a much more powerful person. The reason he become much more greater and a powerful person is because he was represented. He becomes someone who represents the benefits, the interests, and well-being of the entire country or citizen of the nation. So therefore, he or she becomes a very powerful person, and of course, the impact and the influence that he or she can make is much greater. So this is dependentizing. We know that once that person is finished his or her own term, 4 years or 8 years after, and then once he retired, then he is immediately become an ordinary person. He is no longer has the same power as same influence like he or she was as an acting president. So therefore, we needed to know that how this motivation can influence you, can impact what kind of impact it can bring up on you. So therefore, motivation, set up a correct motivation and follow through is absolutely critical. So So our highest ultimate motivation is to become. Intention is the in the Dharma practice is to attain the Buddhahood, or the benefits for the benefits of all sentient beings to attain the Buddhahood. Right? We do that, and by the means various means. Various practices. One of the practices, such as like 4 immeasurable thoughts, as we all know that with prayers, may all sentient beings, right, free from the free causes of suffering, and may all sentient beings free from the endured with the happiness and the causes of happiness, and may all sentient beings never separated from the happiness they achieved, and then sentient beings attend and maintain the state of equanimity and so on. So those 4 immeasurable thoughts essentially is our driving. The essence of these 4 essential 4 immeasurable thoughts essentially is aimed to transform our actions in all time. In other words, so our actions has to be directed, driven by the 4 immeasurable thoughts. Now I would like to share stories with you.
Okay. 상지 좀든 되게랑 라네 된디가 conceptual 다 부즈라 보면 끼와르네 끼어서 사르티 끼르서 코로니 끼르서 냠때 끼당 냠때 끼어서 끼 때리 끼고 포함해 끼 냠때 끼온다 끼 촌촌 또또 리라 카베스 차동도 요르서 근데 야 진짜 지마다 첨부 전에도 라
키즈스로
돌로
키즈끼를
끼 권지 고야가 돌로
고마스
고야가 돌로 계즈나 보는데 오케이 당치와 찡으로 근데 그냥 지네 니가 라트 쇼는 니가 라조비 고모 돌리더니 그 게티 가도 저지니 새로 가도 새로 저지니 근데지니 미청마 티츠는잖니 딱 거기 기왕 하마 가르치다 나르즈니 상질라 좋았던 거라서 어떻게 됐다는 게 이거죠.
네, Okay, so the story I'm going to share with you is from the Buddha's one of the Buddha's the life story, as part of the Jagata, meaning that's a narrative of Buddha. According to Jagata, the life stories of Buddha, once upon a time in ancient India, there was a family, and the family had a boy and a girl. So the boy and the girl, they born in a kind of a very unusual way. And they're born with a cloth on them. So when they were born, and in other words, they come in with the cloth on them, the cloth naturally cloth with them. So which is very unusual and very amazing thing. Then later on, after years later, and then this boy and a girl who decided to join the monastic order and become a monk. And after they become a monk, and others none, and what happened is the clothes they born with or on them while they were born, and the color of their clothes changed. Donc on est deux
servo
no servo
난 servo 납자된다 랍도 송 랍송 그렇게 개로 새로 봤던 거 주고 말았대서
that's it. Buddha Bhuvan is also
그래 버시 공부 좀.
Bhuvan you know much, and the current the you
다좀 공부 더 좀 그냥.
Oh yeah. So yes, and those the girl and the boy, after they grow up, they join the monastic order, and then the color of the natural, born with them is changed into the color of gold. And then they both attended Arhathood, become the fourth one. And at that point, people become more amazed, more astonished by what they have seen, this change of their natural clothes. Then they approached the Buddha Shakyamuni, asked Buddha Shakyamuni to explain what's going on, what had happened.
다 성지 좀 된데 그때 가르쳤나. 코니가 코로도 세트 성지 세트 거랑라 아니 뭐 동 내당 코는 짐바가 당 빈조 상아레스 이 같은 때라 코니에 빼 어쩌고 저 자청이 가서 성니가 코니가 받는 돌로 깨치기 어서 개냥 받는데 깨치기 어는데 김이 실로알레 같이 칠라랭 도 되고 김이 기때 코니 손이 초가 자가 자 강조 된냐이 더스 초가도 칠로올라 지금 레칸다 지금 우리 등장으로도 초가 되게 기가고 건전에 김이 나는 게 되네 그니 받는 깨치기 맞도 말스 어때 자다티 같은 성지 세트업 거랑라 빼 전부 자체 보시기 요즘에 다때 가서 잡덕진 때 그래서 홍으로 서로 홍으로 쏘다 거기 전에 자천이까지 지니 당연히 단다 버때 아니 버나다 긴데다 당나 다 그냥 슬론도 두고 말 슬론도 맞든 또나다 동시 때문에 그러 대사 다 동시 때문에 그래 다 긴데 맞는다 아니 잠바 제는 지면도 같이 가지 다 그니 제대로 제서 제대로 제서다 그니까지 당연히 경험만 집어 맞는 디올라든 단다 버든데 방고 교치 되다 아니 좀 신들라 참았다 근데 요마도 레당하고 다 그니 사바 남다가 제네 때 교시만 남도 같이 심지 탐지도 높이 성지 딱고 모토 받는 게 와 제네 기트 자당서 다 기트 자당서 네 기트 자당서 다 파송텔라 다 랭게데 다 기냥 받은 먼저 고 말와 고 말도 다 이나 거기 삼비클롱라 때니 파송되게 다 가는 남네 키노고스네 그저 키로네 야 성지기 초부치데 부당서 부드다 성지기 뛰는네 다 뛰는 날 뭐치기 지여웠던 롬보다 때그 지 럼보치기 따따 기친 땅고다 라브나 종스 초부치에 되나 요르소 요는 성지 좀 된데 단다 성지 서토고 안에 크게 저 돌로때 저거네 때야 캐쇼즈네 때야 캐오네 아니 그런 야때 돌로 님만 그네 야 잡는다니 대릉 그 점바디노네다 아니 점바 퍼트 총한테 데레지 단디딱 걸롱 세 마시바 단 로아심진 탑지고 돈데 먹네네 포샤 어떠지네 잡동시 당소 잡동시 나오더니 정말 딱딱 거니처 시트에즈니 그런 저니 안나 여도 롬보드니 콜망부 요라도 저거 아니 디카트들 서르촌네 내지니다 작강만 되게 전 하고네 때 그는 뭐치 다른이 그런이라네 여도 다 저거 베로지니 둘로다 정말 되니 되지니 소자신 보청네 강한테 다른 거중에 짐바드니도 체력 망볼라 코니가 배 개강 tre요 말세 어때도 짐바 땅가이나 짐바 땅가 설나가 쓰는 거 말을 뭐가 쓰는 거고 그래 근데 땅가이나 반동 요래 시때마도 능아리길 땅 그런 거 마타가이나 돌가래 세도 밑에 도도 치고지
So after Buddha heard the questions from the audience while he was preaching, and then Buddha told the original cause of such a magnificent, amazing phenomena. So Buddha, here's Buddha, how Buddha introduced or they explained. Again, so there was once upon in the very ancient, old and long time ago, there was actually during the time of ancient Kankamuni. So during the time of Kankamuni, and they would, in other words, while the Buddha Kankamuni was living around, teaching around, and there was a older couple who living in a hut. Hut is a little house built up by the grass. So very simple and humble shelter. And there was the older couple and who live in that house. They really extremely poor, have nothing. But as a tradition, so then there was once there was time, the members of the villagers and in that region, while the Buddha Kankamuni was teaching, so someone organized this the events of a massive offering the ceremony for Buddha Kankamuni and his communities, the Sangha communities. And then the organizer who sent the volunteers and the people who are taking part of this event and visit the villages goes to the families from families to family, house to house, collected the dana and the donations, and asked them whether they are willing or voluntarily want to contribute, make any contribution, and to be part of this offering or dana ceremony to Buddha Kankamuni. And then the organizer or the volunteer and the members of the events who reached out to this poor couple who living in that very, very small hut. So how poor they are, and you can imagine, because this poor couple only have one piece of longi, one piece of material, and if you have the idea about it, India, and so longi, they have a piece of material that can be, you can see that's like trousers or pants, and they only have one piece. So that made them the couple to do to share it, meaning that while the woman wife needed to go out to do something, and then like purchasing or collect the things which do any irons for the family, she is the one who wearing that piece of material, longi, and then go out to do what she needs to do. And then up until her return, and if the man needed to do field work or anything to support his family, and then he is the one take a piece of material, the clothes, and then go out. So then when the volunteers of the events of the dana offering ceremony who reached this family, and then so they asked, assuming they have something else, asked whether they will give any, make any contributions, no matter how small it is. And then they told they only have this piece of material, nothing, and other than that, they don't have anything. So then the man would decide to give out that piece of material. But the woman is raised the concern, saying, this is the only thing we have. Once we give it away, and then what we're going to do when we go out to do the work. And then the man said, we have been such a poor, in such a bad condition, is because from the previous lifetimes, we never really did anything significantly in terms of the practice generosity. So therefore, where we are now. And so then they both agreed that they made it generate to the great mind of awakening, and then decided to give away, offer that very piece of cloth to Buddha Kankamuni. And so then the collectors of the donations, who of course know that it is a very useless and old a piece of material. However, because it is donation from their side, and they decided to take it, collect it. So then they brought it to the Buddha, and then at the day when all the kings and the governors and ministers and rich people and all the dignities, the nobilities, and including the commoners, who all get together in that festival. So they displayed the offerings and right in front of the Buddha and his Sangha community, and of course the donations or the contributions from the royal family and the minister and rich people, and of course this has all kinds of jewels and precious stones, and has great values, right? And all of them are there. However, and Buddha, amazingly, and Buddha point out to that very piece of cloth, the old cloth, and asked his assistant pick up from the piles of the danas, or the object of offering, and brought to him. So then Buddha raised up that piece of material. He said, today, among all these heaps or piles of the offerings and the object of the dana and the offerings, this piece of material is the purest one, is the best one. It has it contains the highest value. So, and because Buddha said this donation be made, or contributions made with a pure intention, and the intent to benefit all sentient beings. So therefore, it's the best, is the highest, represent the highest policy. Then immediately that couple become very famous, and it's drawn to the attentions of the kings and the ministers of the rich people. And then they approached them and they offered them a house and a clothes and anything they needed. So they, in that very lifetime, and they become very they have a very comfortable life. And then from that life onwards, they also appreciate a great deal of prosperity. So this is the end of story. But the point here, we have to learn, the lessons we need to learn is that to take this story as an example. We know that everything, and when you give it away, make a donations to others, it is not really because of the marketing value of the thing that you are making offering, but rather is the heart, is the pure intentions that you that's driven you, that forced you to do so. So therefore, the real lessons that we need to learn in that is that when we make donations or give any contributions, we must not do it with the sense of being miserliness, right? Or kind of a tired fist, right? Kind of holds becomes, so dearly to oneself, at the same time is forced to yourself to giving. So we must not have that kind of, the mentality or thoughts and that affect us when we make donations. And secondly, we also need to pay close attention when we make donations and make any form of contributions. Make sure that we are not doing that with a strong or with a sense of being driven by the sense of self-pride. Think that I can do that. I am so and so. Why not I? Why not me? And not doing that. So I do it. So when you make that donation with such a strong pride, then again, that's not the right way to donation, to make the contributions or practice done.
야 단당 아주 대표게 뭐는 좀 좋고 대랑 그 종교 정말 대표인 쓰고 때 가서 능하고 최종들이 정말 가정의 강가도 정성 때자 참만냠대 뭐 뭐는 지수 그 때라 정비 소소게 와지 저걸 때라 대표게 뭐는 저거를 정말네 그런 잠랑 시대 용화던 거네 다르트 정말 성지지고 봉토버 용화 성지 대기 당담이 오네 성지지고보다 탑신 인원도 전에 전에서 고봉토부터 왔던 근데 달로 책동 로인데 딱로도 아니는 뭐지 공로 지동성 그런 로에 대자 될라가 받치만 뭐 되게 뭐만 저 땡이래 와셔요.
Okay. So let me conclude what I have said, and to make a connection. So to show you how the teachings we have discussed up until this point is related to us, or how it can be taken in into our own sort of actual the daily practice, right? As I mentioned in the previous Sunday, so there is going to be a great festival of Monam, and organized by the Gelugpa Order of Tibetan Buddhism in New York. And as I announced that we're asking for and the contributions, no matter again how smaller and whatever the size of amount that you can do. So from the center of the Gompa, we will going to make some contributions, and you individually, whatever you prefer, you feel comfortable, and your dana, the contributions, the generosities are welcome. This festival of great prayer is aimed for the peace and prosperity of the world and all sentient beings, and ultimately, and that this very small or the kind of the daily practice and of dana generosity ultimately is we do so is because we want to attend the Buddhahood, and then we are accumulating. In order to attend the Buddhahood for the benefits of all sentient beings, we need to accumulate nourishing, accumulating the collection of merits, right? And so that merits, practice of collection of merits, combined or guided, is self-guided by the understanding of the wisdom, the great compassion. Therefore, your donations is going to be have a very profound spiritual values. And another thing is, beside of this great festival of great prayer, this year, 2022, according to the Tibetan calendar, is the year of water tiger, and again, according to the Tibetan calendars, it is Ajahn Rinpoche's the self Ajahn Rinpoche's own it follows the Ajahn Rinpoche's birth mark of the year of the birth, meaning that Ajahn Rinpoche was he's turned to 73. 那知道是啥了？
不是同意吧？
Yeah, he's going to turn to 73, and so in other words, he was born 73 years ago. He was born the year of the Tegar, and I think that you make donations and then offer to the Great Festival of Prayer, and has such a multiple great spiritual meanings.
근데 망용라 잡으려 말이지. 근데 자네 맨날 가면 지스영치나 다른 데다 그랬어. 선만 가지 옆으로 단단한 데데 구조지한테 지스영치는데 동남나 지스영치 왔는데 뭐가 소가 요때 처음에 semnang 해 왔지라. 잠못 영치 코트고 등이 잡을 텐데 삼동 거고 말이지.
But again, the contribution is not based on the stories we just shared. They were discussed. It's not really about how big are you making, how small you're making. The size of your dana is not really the key. The key is your own motivation. For those of you, for whatever reason, you can make it, and it's not the problem at all. But you can do one thing that you can also equally as meaningful as those who is able to be in the position to make contributions. That is, so you have nothing, but you can simply just purely and sincerely generate the mind of rejoice. And you can rejoice that whoever is making, doing, and engaging in such a wonderful act of generosity, and from the deeply from your heart, bottom of your heart, is make it. I rejoice and praise them and I recognize their wonderful and virtuous deeds, and then that's also can equally they produce a greater value of spiritual meaning. And so in any case, don't force yourself, okay? And don't make it that as like a burden.
We will say the closing prayer on page number 80. And while we say prayers, or before we say prayers, Stacy make announcement here.
Thank you, Geishla, Tempa, and Tenzin. I'll pass around the begging bowl, and if you would like to make a donation for the ceremony, the Monlan Chimo ceremony, please do so. And you may just say a prayer or mantra in the bowl also. Thank you. Oh, and there's no class next Sunday because nor meditation, as the monks will be in New York.
Closing prayer on page number 80.
lang ji nye ne de be ya na nye shi rang ge je do be lang ji shi zhao ji zhao wei tang gui rou wei ye ji men ba sa shi ya wei dan ba ye rang zhen ye ba ren chen chou gui ma jiu cha zhang yang ber zhi wei shou de yang ji qian bo yao ru jiu ba gang de sa wer xie ber xiu se jie ya wei ma xiong chen le la zhe shang xiu lang ji ren bie tan du nan jie ye la huan de shang ya wei za ba rong de zhong ye la zan zhe bin ten jian zhe xi ga jian se xie me dang me men ce re gang de ya wei nga ba yi nam da zhe wer ma ye zhen tang ba zhong la qi zhu ce zhen zhen la zong ba de ye te de nan ye da de zhou xie zha xie yang zuo shou gen qiao yi ba de zhao wei la ma ren bo xie da so yin ge ba mi dang zhe la ga zhen qian bu gu ni ji song de ge song de jie ni zhe za de so shen qiao ren bo qi ma jie ba ne ji 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 jie wa niang ba me ber yang gang de gong de pe wer shou gang re ra wei gu wei shang geng se pan da de wa ma le zhong wei ne shan ri zi wang den zhen yang zu yi xia bei sen de ba de dan yi ji jia bu ba wo ji de tian ba dang zang bo de yang de zhen de da gen ji ji si da lo shi ge wang de da tang zhi ra de mo de si ma sha bei ya wa tang zhi ji mo wa gang la chu de nga ba de da zhen ge wei za wa de gen jiang mo shu shi ra de mo er ji fan de zhong de tan ba da shang yi dan zhen jie wu tang zhi geng geng zang de zhen geng la de zhen zhong wei ne san ye dan ba da de jie ji ce ru geng de ya wa zong gang wei 타조 신예 예선 자베데 야베 나베 나상 데니엘리 같이 자양 도벌 마저